think what COVID has done, which is fantastic, is it's really highlighted how we can do things differently, but we need to start normalizing it. It can't just be during a crisis.
Professor Mariana Mazzucato is a leading figure in anti-liberal thought, and her interventionist ideas have made her very popular in politics, culture, and the media.
Innovation historically has been the result of a collective effort.
Her books, The Entrepreneurial State and The Value of Everything, have generally received favorable reviews. Until now, there was no detailed study of the errors of this researcher. Fortunately, this has been corrected by Deirdre Nansen-McCloskey, Distinguished Professor Emerita of Economics and of History, and Professor Emerita of English and of Communication, and Alberto Mingardi, Director General of the Italian free market think tank Istituto Bruno Leone, in their recent book, The Myth of the Entrepreneurial State, published in 2020 by the American Institute for Economic Research. A common narrative of the post-World War II economists was that the state is indispensable for guiding investment and fostering innovation. They claimed that the wealth of the modern world is the result of past state guidance, and that what is needed for future economic growth is more state guidance.
It is a wonderful thing for our businessmen and our manufacturers and our unemployed to taste hope again. But they must not allow anyone to put them back in the gold cage, where they have been pining their hearts out all these years.
The truth is that the enriched modern economy was not a product of state coercion. The great enrichment, that is, came from human ingenuity emancipated from the bottom up, not human ingenuity directed from the top down. The true question is what on balance is the best way to organize innovation, by the wise state or by commercially tested betterment?
The argument of the book is that this dream of top-down management, of invention, of innovation, is, to be very mild about it, unreasonable. There's a famous sentence in Keynes, 1936, where he says that we economists can easily determine the marginal efficiency of investment on long views and in view of the social benefit from investment. And that's what we should do. And this is pazzo, this is insane in our view. The arrogance of it, the idea that an arts graduate in Washington or Rome can do a better job in coming up with valuable new ideas for the economy is ancient and wrong.
As with the also famous Thomas Piketty, Professor Mazzucato's theses are not supported by empirical evidence. States are not entrepreneurs, nor do they energize private companies. Most of the time, they serve as obstacles to entrepreneurship by only favoring inefficient but already established businesses.
So how do we bring that notion of a social contract to the center of this notion of purpose and a more purposeful system? Personally, I think unless it's conditional, it's not going to happen. But the word condition kind of sounds negative. It sounds like someone has a stick over your head. We need to change that too. This really needs to be about a win-win, about building back better. And those companies interested in long-term growth really need to radically change how they're working with government.
When these businesses receive benefits from the state, it's the people that end up paying. This should be no secret to economists, because it was denounced by Adam Smith in 1776. The state did not invent the internet, despite Al Gore's claims to the contrary. McCloskey and Mingardi grant, however, that this does not mean that the market is impeccable, nor that politicians and bureaucrats do everything wrong. If the state spends a third to a half of national income and regulates much of the rest, the opportunities for cherry-picked examples of good state action are going to be ample. But the state is not a company. and McCloskey and Mingardi dismantled the theoretical errors of Professor Mazzucato, who, like many others, preferred to ignore the analysis of the nature and consequences of the fundamental characteristic of the state, the monopoly of legitimate coercion. The authors do not fall for the rhetorical tricks of the anti-liberals. While they claim to respect free human action, in practice they advocate more and more state coercion, fettering such action without discernible end.
The crisis has shown us we need a mindset change, and we need also to move from a society where business and governments have very separate tasks to a society where the two, together with civil society, work hand in hand.
This book is not victim to the familiar traps of neoclassical economics and perfect markets, nor of corporate social responsibility or stakeholder capitalism. In their critique of anti-liberalism, McCloskey and Mingardi do very well to address left and right alike. They use the word liberal as they do in Spanish, not in the distorted manner common in English-speaking countries, and refuse to speak of classical liberalism as if it were ancient.
Klaus's wonderful concept of stakeholder capitalism can't just be about corporate governance and how the corporate world interacts with, different stakeholders. It actually has to go to the center of how we design our capitalist system, because there's different ways to do that. And we unfortunately have really a wrong design, both in terms, again, of the whole issue of shareholder maximization versus this kind of more purpose-driven stakeholder value concept, but really, the nitty-gritty of how business interacts with government and with the broader kind of, civil society organizations. And I think what COVID has done, which is fantastic, is it's really highlighted how we can do things differently, but we need to start normalizing it. It can't just be during a crisis.
McCloskey and Mingardi put their finger on the sore of Professor Mazzucato and other hegemonic progressives. They despise ordinary men and women.